Mike Brennan, and we're back with MITech TV along with my partner in crime, Matt Roush. Say hi, Matt.
Hello.
And so, who we have joining us on this particular segment is Pina Bennett, who's the Detroit DTE Director of Electric Sales and Marketing. And there was a press release, I believe it went out last week, that was talking about a new program. I'm not sure if you've actually got it through the Michigan Public Service Commission or that you've actually proposed it to them. I don't know what that is, but we'll get into that in a second. But tell us a little bit about the transportation electrification plan and what's it all about and what went into the planning.
Sure. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about the exciting transportation electrification plan. So, as the new fuel provider for transportation, we, DTE Electric, have an important role to play in reliably accommodating new electric vehicles on the grid and accelerating the transition to EVs to help the state of Michigan and to help its citizens achieve our decarbonization goals. So DTE's Charging Forward program actually launched in 2019, and it has continued to grow and evolve. And there was a desire from our commission to see a full-scale, well-developed, permanent proposal. And so as a result, we spent the past year and a half developing a comprehensive transportation electrification plan. And essentially what it does is it helps guide the role of the utility in productive and prudent investment in the transportation sector. And this is for the 2025 to 2028 timeframe. Providing transparency into our investment strategy, DTE Electric's EV investment strategy with this transportation electrification plan helps inform the public. And it also maximizes coordination, effectiveness with regional and other organizations on their transportation electrification efforts to guide optimal use of all available funds. And our approach to developing this plan was to first benchmark other transportation electrification plans nationally so that we could establish key themes that informed our approach and our program proposals. We analyzed the charging infrastructure that would be needed to support the forecasted EV adoption in our service territory, which could go from 46,000 EVs on the road today to about 326,000 by 2028. We held webinars with the MPSC staff, with the commissioners. We hosted webinars for different stakeholder groups, policy and advocacy, industry, community partners, where we discussed our overall approach, our market assessment results, and we asked our stakeholders to weigh in on what would they want us to see us doing in this space. And then that helped inform our participation framework and our ultimate proposal. And so, which our ultimate proposal achieves our guiding principles. By facilitating charger deployments for key segments through rebates, while maintaining affordability benefits for all DTE Electric customers, closes charging gaps, promotes equity with a focus on low-income customers and disadvantaged communities, and it focuses our rebates on charging infrastructure and essentially ensuring all Michiganders benefit from a robust and easily accessible network of chargers across the state.
So it's an important distinction to me, at least, reading some of the coverage about this, is that DTE is not installing the chargers, rather. What you are doing is providing rebates to customers, right?
Correct. We will be providing rebates to our customers, both residential and business. Mm-hmm.
And what kind of rebates are we talking about for both residential and business?
There are multiple kinds of rebates, actually. So what I would say is that out of the proposed rebate investment of about $125 million, more than half is proposed to go to segments that promote equity in EV and EV infrastructure access. And so we have proposed rebates that cover the full cost of the charger and installation for income qualified single-family residents. And for qualifying apartments and other multi-unit dwellings to ensure that EVs are made more accessible for many Michigan families. We also are balancing our approach across other segments to help close charging gaps. So we're also dedicating rebates for public fast chargers, both in rural and disadvantaged communities and in other on-route areas as necessary to ensure that all Michiganders benefit from a robust and easily accessible network of chargers, like I said earlier. And the plan also supports DC fast chargers for schools, transit buses, and fleets to support their switch to electric. And in these sectors, we will also ensure that we help these entities secure all available federal, state, and local government funding. And essentially what we are through the transportation electrification plan and these rebates and the way they're structured, what we want to do is establish a foundational capability to monitor, facilitate, and develop the EV charger network in Southeast Michigan in a prudent and effective way. And DTE Electric, we're also going to be watching closely market signposts. We're going to remain agile, and we want to also have the ability to scale our programs according to the market signposts while ensuring that we stay aligned with our guiding principles, we adhere to our programmatic guide rails, but then we effectively support the development of this charger network and the My Healthy Climate Plan.
So how do you see this electric vehicle market changing? And let me also add, we've covered this pretty extensively, Matt and I. I mean, we work closely with ITC, DTE, and consumers, so I'm pretty familiar with the grid situation. I'm also pretty familiar with Governor Whitmer and her idea of plugging in another 1 million or 2 vehicles over the next few years. And I understand that I don't know how that's going to happen, to tell you the truth, because there's just not enough electricity being generated right now to really support all of our needs. So that's not really the question that I was supposed to ask you, but I'm kind of curious your thoughts on that. How are we going to deal with that?
From a generational standpoint, from specific generation, we don't have a concern, to be very honest with you. Where we do see investment, where investment will be needed is at the grid edge. So think about, so what is the grid edge? Grid edge is really, when you think about the grid edge, it's the pieces of the grid, and I'm not going to speak this very technically, so we can give you the specific technical notes later, but it's the pieces of the grid that directly connect to the customer. So think about secondary transformers, secondary lines, service drops, and things like that. And what we believe was going to be necessary is immediately necessary is not really generation. It is essentially shoring up the grid edge. And we actually have investments planned in that arena. We're spending about $9 billion on grid investments, as you've probably heard since you've covered this before. And a lot of it is to trimming trees, hardening infrastructure, making it more resilient, redesigning and modernizing infrastructure, and automation. But like I said earlier, we're considering various electrification scenarios to understand and prepare for the corresponding grid impact. So regardless of the rate of adoption that you've heard about, what's contemplated in the My Healthy Climate Plan, and what we're talking about, the impact of the EVs will first be felt on this grid edge that I was talking about, which are assets that are closest to customer sites. And where we feel like, so to prepare for this, DTE is already considering proactive upgrades to grid edge equipment before the equipment overloads and failures occur. And so what the examples of this could look like: replacing service lines, increasing distribution transformer sizes, adding transformers, so that allows for fewer customers with higher loads per customer. So I don't know if that answered the question.
We have a very technical audience, so they'll understand all this. So.
Okay. And then the other piece of this is to understand the impacts of new technology adoption, including electrification on the grid. We are also building an hourly forecasting framework to integrate the changing load patterns of these new technologies into our forecasting and distribution planning work. And so this work includes using machine learning algorithms to identify where EV charging is happening on the system, and building propensity models so that we can predict where and when future adoption of new technologies will occur. And so this will also enable our engineering teams to identify specific locations on the grid where load relief is likely needed, or load relief investments are likely needed. And like I said, in total, DTE Electric plans on investing $9 billion over the next 5 years to achieve our goals to help improve reliability and capacity.
I was curious to know what DTE is doing to assist customers who want to purchase an EV this year, who want to, who are thinking about it now rather than in the 28 timeframe.
Well, this year we have our programs. We have resources, rebates, even today, which will help the customer make the switch to EV even more affordable. So qualifying residential customers can take advantage of a $1,500 EV rebate. when they purchase or lease an eligible all-electric vehicle, so a battery electric vehicle. And then we also have a $500 home EV rebate, home EV charger rebate, sorry, for installing a level 2 charger and enrolling in one of our money-saving EV electric rates. Qualifying business customers can receive up to $2,000 per level 2 port. We also have incentives for fleet managers, and that's through our very popular e-fleet charger rebate program, where qualifying businesses can get up to $2,500 per level 2 port, or $70,000 per DC fast charger.
Okay. I'm still an ICE guy. I like them. I like those gas-powered vehicles, but I'm an old gearhead from the '60s, so I mean that's part of it. So, yeah, there's it's interesting stories coming over the transom. Doesn't involve you guys, but in general, the public we're all skeptical right now about EVs because I live in a complex with 600 units. We have two chargers. And so I haven't seen any fistfights over there or anything, but it's a challenge right now. So the infrastructure's really got to get built out. I mean, the hybrids are kind of a good halfway point in between. Seems to be a certain comfort level there. If you run out of electric juice, then you still got gas juice and you can run the engine, right? So, but yeah, this it's just taking longer. I'm sorry. It's kind of, Matt and I've covered a lot of auto shows, and the auto shows always, in the next couple of years, it's going to do this, and it never quite does that. But yeah, the EVs still remain kind of a promise and not a reality yet? I mean, they are a reality. What would you say, Matt?
Well, I'd say the major roadblock, as you said in your complex, there is a lack of charging stations. That to me is the biggest barrier to truly widespread adoption, because affordability and range are starting to become less of a factor. You know, you can get a good EV in the $40,000 range now, and that's pretty much the average sticker
300
price of a
miles
car
on a
these days.
charge, somewhere in that
Yeah,
ballpark,
and roughly 300 miles on a charge is pretty standard now. I think if they can bump that up to 400, there will be significantly less range anxiety because I don't know about you, but I don't want to drive more than 500 miles in a day. So,
Yeah.
even on a long road trip.
I just had to drive to Boyne City and back on a weekend, and that was like 550 round trip. So,
yeah, you would have needed a level 2 charger at your destination up there and they're even scarcer up there.
Oh, yeah, Northern Michigan, forget it, So, anyway, we are digressing. So, any final thoughts, Pina? I mean, you see, we kibitz a lot. Any final thoughts, Pina, and what you'd like to follow up with at the end here?
I would just say that this program really, to what you guys were just talking about, right? We do find through our market research too that the cost of purchasing electric vehicle or EV charger does tend to be a barrier for lower to moderately income families. And we as a utility have an important role to help all Michiganders make the switch to an EV. Even if the price of the EV, even if the price of the vehicle does come down or the used car market opens up, it still can be pretty prohibitive to install a charger, prohibitive cost for multi-family units, like you said, and for lower income families. And so close to half of the proposed rebates that we are proposing are targeted towards EEJ communities. Through rebates for low-income customers, disadvantaged communities, rural area, transit, and school buses. And so with this plan, with DTE's Transportation Electrification Plan, customers who need installation support the most will benefit from this program while also seeing fuel savings when switching to an EV. And you alluded to this earlier. In practical terms, if the plan is fully approved by the MPSC, a qualifying Michigan family of 4 making $60,000 or less annually could see the cost of installing an EV charger fully covered by a rebate.